Merkel Media.
Hey everybody, it's that time of the year again. Angel Tree Farms in Alberta, PA is a 501c3 nonprofit Christmas tree farm benefiting the Pediatric Cancer Foundation in Lehigh Valley. They're at it again. All the volunteers are out there. They have a great selection of trees, pictures with Santa, cookies, cocoa, and more. They're open 12 to 5 on Fridays, 9 to 5 Saturdays and Sundays from Black Friday until Christmas. You can get more information from the Angel Tree Farms Facebook page or at angeltreefarms.org. They're located at 7931 Spring Creek Road, Alberta, Pennsylvania, 18011. Angel Tree Farms is growing generously in the community. Look them up on the Facebook page. If you feel like you're too far away, you don't want to come to the farm, take a look about donating. It's a worthwhile cause.
Check out Angel Tree Farms at Angel Tree Farms Facebook page or at angeltreefarms.org. Thank you and have a Merry Christmas and a Happy Holiday.
He put it in park, threw open the driver's door, ran out the side of the car, across the front of it, and jumped right off the side of the bridge in front of me.
The only people who really pulled over were truckers.
He said, "We're going to Hodge," and he didn't slow down. He went across the median onto the oncoming traffic, but where they could see him coming, they just got out of the way.
I noticed this plane was really low. It went right in front of us, hit the fence, and it spun around. 30 seconds more, he could have hit us.
And I went around that truck, and a guy stepped out from behind the truck and threw a piece of wood, and it shot through my window just like a spear and stuck in the back of the cab of my truck. That's probably one of the stranger things I've seen.
Welcome to Hammer Lane Legends. I'm Brian Merkel.
I'm Brian Schipper.
And I'm Mike Drey.
If you have a crazy and wild story you would like to share with us from the road or have a conversation with us about your experiences as a truck driver on the road or a Lyft driver or an Uber driver, go ahead and contact us at hllpodcast@protonmail.com. That's hllpodcast@protonmail.com, or go to the hammerlanelegends.com webpage at the contact section. Get a hold of us. Either way works for us. Just get a hold of us. We want to hear from you. We want to have you on the show. We want to have a conversation with you. Chipper, tell them about the Buy Me a Coffee.
Keep us fueled, keep us caffeinated at buymeacoffee.com/hammerlane. It's a virtual tip jar. If you like what we're doing, you feel like leaving us a little howdy tip, go do it. Have at it. Enjoy.
Have at it indeed. Today, we're talking with Joe. Joe, how are you doing?
I'm doing all right, guys. Thank you.
That's fantastic. It's fantastic to have you on. And you know what? You're better off if you can't.
I've got that in between, thing.
No, Schipper had his peepers fixed,
right.
And he's got new lenses on him and everything. It's kind of, it's amazing. It's kind of weird, but he actually sees better now. So, which is, if he's sitting across from me, it's not a good thing. So
right.
It's okay.
Well, the smaller my phone, the better, by the sounds of it.
It is precisely. So, Joe, tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us how you kind of got into the trucking industry, a little bit about your experience getting into it, and
Sure.
then how long you've been driving and all that kind of stuff.
Well, I first started driving when I was 19. I got a CDL because I was in school. I was in university, and my dad died, unfortunately. And I'm from a working class family, and I had to pay my way through school. So a family friend, helped me get a CDL and found me a job for a mail contractor. So I drove trucks, delivering in the morning, the way those usually worked, or at least the way they did back then. I deliver out to smaller towns from a small city in western Massachusetts in the morning, and I'd have about 5 or 6 hours off, and then I'd come back and I'd take the mail from the small towns back into that city in the afternoon. And I worked 4 days a week, sometimes 5 days a week, and in between, I had time to still go to university.
Wow.
So I did that to pay my way through school. And after that, I went off and did other things. But I always kept that golden ticket in my back pocket. And I realized that having a CDL, I earned more, driving, if you want to break it down to an hourly rate, back then than I did in my first couple of jobs with my degree. So it was always in the back of my mind. And I'll be honest with you, when I'd have those really tough days at work and things weren't going well and stress levels were high, I would often wake up in the morning and be thinking about how much I loved driving through those small towns in a big truck.
Yeah. It is crazy, isn't
Yeah,
it?
it is.
And that's the draw to that's one of the draws to the job is the number one is the paycheck.
Sure.
I mean, when you look at this and doing what you're doing, it's the thing that I think we all kind of get stuck
Without
into.
a doubt.
You know,
I often tell people that this sounds a little bit exaggerated, but I don't think it is. That job saved me. Having that job, I wouldn't have been able to afford to go to school and do the things I wanted to do if I didn't have that behind me. So I've always been so thankful that I was introduced to this job.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, as I feel the same way with doing this for a living. Now, I wasn't in school or nothing like that when I learned to drive. I was actually laid off.
There you go.
Systems. And when the bottom fell out in 92, ended 92 or whatever, I was like, well, what am I going to do? So I was hanging around, and 93 came, and I still wasn't. There was nothing in installing security systems. And I would just wound up. Okay, what am I going to do? I got kids, I got a wife. Got to make money.
Well, that's kind of the way I came back to it. Yeah.
Yeah, it is amazing.
Yeah. Because I was gone for, I didn't drive trucks for, I've never really added it up, but, over 30 years. I went off and I did other things. And, I lived in China for almost 30 years. I lived in Hong Kong.
Wow.
And my wife was a flight attendant at that point. She's from the Philippines, but we were both living in Hong Kong. And she took an early retirement from work. And I thought, well, listen, I think I'll go back to the U.S. We have a house in the Philippines. And, I know that ultimately I'll retire back there. But I thought, what am I going to do? And I wanted to find a job where I could keep a foot in Asia, and not, totally lose track of that. And, most normal jobs, you're going to get, 3 weeks of vacation a year to travel back. And that's just not enough.
Right.
And as I said, I always kept that, license up. I think I did finally let it lapse around 2012, I think. But I knew I could go back to it. And I said, well, I should look into trucking again. So 6 years ago, I came back out and I got my CDL back, and I've been flatbedding ever since.
Wow. And do you prefer flatbedding, or have you tried, when you came back at it, did you do any van or anything like that, dry van, or did you... Coming
back at it, I have been flatbed all the way. I very intentionally did it that way. I'd done a little bit of flatbed as well when I was younger. And, it pays a little bit better. That's one thing. Another thing I like the schedule better. I knew that would suit me a little bit more. That, as you guys probably know, we tend to deliver early mornings up to early afternoons, and it's pretty rare that we, have to do it otherwise. My hat is off to guys who drive in, especially those reefer guys bouncing all over the clock. I honestly don't know if I could do it. I think, they good on them that they can tolerate those schedules, because I don't think I could. I don't mind the hard work. I'm a strong guy. I was always fit and did a lot of things. So a little bit heavy now, but that's a truck driver's dilemma, isn't it? It sure is. It sure is. But I like getting out. I like working. I like the puzzle that we have to solve doing flatbed too.
Yeah. Oh, I can. Yeah. I mean, from my aspect of things, I look at it like my hat's off to you guys, because yours is a lot more work intensive, getting things ready to go, getting it, everything strapped, getting it, parked and all that. And then undoing all that when you get to where we just, roll up and we're all, basically line haul drivers.
It's nice weather out, sunshine, and it doesn't seem kind of nice, but when it's 10 below, blowing snow, rain,
on those beautiful days, it's a pleasure being out there. But 5 o'clock in the morning in the dark in Wyoming in January, and I've had plenty of those mornings too, where my tarps are so frozen. I remember pulling a lumber load into a Lowe's DC, and any guys who've done flatbed will know this one too. But when you pull your tarps off, they've hardened into the shape of your lumber load. So there's first off, getting them off is enough of a challenge. Once you get them off, there's no way you're going to fold them up. So, we all tend to learn that you just have to kind of crumple them into a shape, get on your knees and just fall on them to crunch them over, lift them up again and fall on them again until you finally get a great big ball of tarp, strap it to your deck and wait for the sun to come out and heat it up a little bit. Those mornings are pretty terrible, I have to admit. That's when you say, why the heck did I ever think I wanted to become a flatbedder, man?
Yep.
But those beautiful afternoons when we're out there, it's a joy. It's a joy doing physical work,
Yeah. Oh, I guess that's kind of one of the things that you kind of miss doing what we do, because we're working in the middle of the night. So you don't really get out. You don't move much. You drive for 4 or 5 hours. You get out of your truck, you drop, you hook, you drive for 4 or 5 hours,
it's tough, man. Yeah.
It's the monotony of it, and it's the stress. I mean, that's a stressful, it's funny. It's one of those things. And I don't mean to, just an aside, when you talk to people and they're like, oh, you're just driving a truck. I mean, you're just driving. Okay, get in your car and drive for 5 hours and see how you feel.
Exactly. I've had some interesting conversations with taxi drivers. And those guys get it. They get that side of it. That anybody can just drive around in their car for 3 hours, but do it for 10, 12 hours a day, 6 days a week, 7 days a week.
Yeah.
And that mental tiredness really comes into things. It's not an easy job. And couple it with you guys, pulling through the night and then sleeping days, sleeping nights and mixing it together. Man, I don't know how you do it. That's as bad as my wife before, having constant jet lag for 30 years. That's really a lot what it's like for you guys. So my hat's off to you. It really is. I can't do it.
I've never even thought about that as far as being a flight attendant, like with your wife and that kind of stuff, or anything
no in the schedule with
I mean, their schedule's kind of crazy,
Yeah, they're all over. She was jet lagged for 30 years, basically.
Yeah,
constantly. Flying where she was, out of Hong Kong had been a British colony, so there was no domestic flying. It's a city-state of a sort. So all of her flights tended to be long-haul flights to different time zones. And boy, you don't physically get used to jet lag. You just suffer through it and learn some techniques to make the suffering better, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, my word.
Was she? I know the pilots were, subject to hours of service and that.
Yeah,
right? But stewardesses, I don't think so.
They
off
are.
One plane.
They are.
Yeah,
there's an organization called ICAO, and I can't remember exactly what the acronym stands for, but there are some standards, and then different countries have different standards as well. So the company she worked in, she flew. At that point, I think things changed a lot, but I think her schedule allowed her 76 hours of flying time per month, which sounds very little, but that's not including all the planning meetings and trip prep and stuff like that, and that they do as well. But she thinks we work heck of a lot more than they ever did. But
that's what I was thinking. We're allowed 70 hours in a week.
Yeah, exactly.
They're flying back and forth. They're just walking, doing food and everything else.
Right.
Hey, jump off this 10-hour flight, turn around, pop this one. You're on your way back or whatever.
I'll tell you, they both have their stresses, though. I remember my wife once got stuck on a tarmac in New York City for 36 hours. For 36 hours, and the toilets had filled up and overgone, and I can't remember what the issue was, but I think it was a storm where everyone was stuck out on the tarmac, and she's got to work through all that and people complaining and everything else. She actually comes on the truck with me. She was on the truck with me during COVID for about 5 months, which I have to tell you is longer than anyone should have their wife on a truck. I think she'd agree with me on that one. But she loves it. She can sleep in the bunk, and she's used to cooking in a small place, in the galley. And boy, she put 25 pounds on me in those. My buddies would laugh at me. I'd have pre-trip meals and mid-morning snacks, and I had first-class service there for a while.
Yeah. That's fantastic, man. Flight attendant on board,
She loved it. She'd sit in that seat and watch the world go by. She really likes being on the truck.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah,
I think neat.
Oh,
Yeah.
man,
Well, look
I
at it
can't
this way. She can
imagine.
actually see the world go by, not
Yeah.
when she's in the plane.
Exactly. You know, it's funny.
World's an inch big.
She loved sleeping in the bunk while I was driving because it really reminded her of sleeping in the crew beds or racks or whatever they call them. That sort of movement and bouncing around. Boy, she sleeps like a log when she's back there.
Wow. But it's funny too because to us, I'm sitting here thinking about this, and Schipper said about our 70-hour work week, and I was like, yeah. But when you're talking, like if you were like a domestic flight, flight attendant here in the States, I mean, the longest flight you're probably going to have is 3 hours, going across the country. So if you can do 70 hours in a month or 76 hours a month, I mean, you got 3 hours, 3 hours, 3 hours. That's a lot of flight. That's a lot of flying schedule.
Well, add on to that, for her a New York flight, depending on the prevailing winds and direction, I think they could be as long as 17 hours over the pole to Asia.
Can you imagine
that's a long piece of work.
Yeah, that is.
I've done it as a passenger plenty of times, but never working, obviously.
I don't, and I think about that stuff, and I don't know if I could even do it as a passenger.
As long as I've been in a plane, it's 2.5 hours, and it was driving me nuts. I can't imagine.
It's a long flight. It's a long flight.
Yeah, I can imagine. I guess that's the beauty of a cruise.
Yeah, we went on many cruises. The longest I had to fly was down to Florida. Most of the time we got on in Bayonne, New Jersey, just drove there. Didn't even have to get on a plane.
There you go. That's awesome, isn't it?
The ship is great because your hotel goes with you.
Yeah,
like an
there
airplane.
you go. That's our life right there.
It's kind of like a trucker. Yeah, you got your hotel sitting right behind you there.
I get my whole thing of, because I bounced around and I've lived in different places and different countries. When people ask me, the most common question we get when you get off a truck is, where are you from? Or where do you live? And I usually just tell people right there, in the back of that truck. That's basically where I live now. Yeah.
And it's amazing. And the thing with being in the truck is that the food is not as good as it is on a ship.
Oh, I'm sure. I can guarantee you that.
Where you're stopping for food is not going to be as good as on a ship. The truck driver palate is.
Boy, those long days. A pot of rice and a can of chili. That's the tired trucker meal in my truck. Yeah.
I'm home every day, and I pack my lunch to come to work. I can't go into you just spend a small fortune to eat out on the road.
Oh my word!
Yeah, I try not to, and it's I don't always cook on the truck, but I do a fair amount of the time. Yeah.
Oh, just health wise. You think what are your options
as well?
A truck stop. And then why truck drivers look like they do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's true.
You can't blame the truck stop totally.
Right, without a doubt. Well, without a doubt.
The willing participant of the truck driver, right?
Triple cheeseburger jumped right in my mouth, dude. I don't know out of nowhere.
French fries. I don't know.
I was picking up the salad. That cheeseburger jumped in.
Right.
Yeah. That's purpose. He was just forcing it on me. It's crazy.
That's right.
But when you were in China, what kind of stuff were you doing in China, if I can ask?
Yeah, sure. When I first went to Hong Kong, Hong Kong was a British colony at that point. The colony reverted to China in 97. I went there in 92, and I went over for 6 months. My brother was a journalist there, and he said, the door's open if you want to come over and have a visit. So I thought I'd go over for 6 months and have some fun, and I came back 30 years later. So, when I first went, I got a job. I got a few jobs working in bars. I was a doorman. I was a bouncer. And I had a lot of fun for about 6 months, 8 months. And then I had an opportunity. I had a job working as in an NGO, with a nonprofit by American, terms. And I ended up doing that for most of my time in Hong Kong. I worked for a drugs NGO. So I worked with people who had drug problems, but I also worked kind of advocating drug policy things and doing a lot of training as a drugs specialist, I guess you could say.
Wow.
I did that. And then I worked for a humanitarian aid organization as well toward the end of that. Ultimately, I was the president of this organization, pretty well known around the world, of our Hong Kong office, about 30, 40 people. So I did a mix of NGO work, nonprofit work, mostly while I was there.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. That is fascinating.
That was interesting.
Holy cow.
It's really interesting work. I mean, incredibly interesting work, but it doesn't pay well. I earn more now as a truck driver than I ever did doing that.
Yeah.
To be honest, I'm in a pretty good place. I'm in a good company right now too. I think we do pretty well. But yeah, I earn more here now by a bit than I did with a lot more responsibility and a lot more stress doing that other work in Asia. So.
Sure. Yeah. And I would imagine that the cultural differences, being over there and doing the things that you're doing and all that, it's got to be a fascinating thing.
Yeah, it is. And I think I got a kind of a feel for it that I noticed a lot of people who are expatriates, living in another country, a lot of people only last a year or two before they want to go home. And I think the challenge to them, a lot of people, is just everything is so different and it's all coming at you, especially in the beginning. It's really stressful. And I think some people just don't like it. They like what they're used to, and they kind of like home. And that's not a bad thing. I think, that's fine. But I know for me, I always found it kind of interesting. So if you put me in a new place, those differences and those conflicts and those things, I found them, they were kind of fun for me. So I enjoyed being, in different countries and having to learn different things and see different stuff. It was just a constant game for me, and I liked it. So I stuck on. Yeah.
And I imagine the challenges are, it's got to be something.
Language challenges and cultural challenges, all kinds of things. And then marrying a woman from another country as well. And, that it's just constant cultural, change and differences right at me. And I think it's fun for the most part.
Sure. And I imagine she spoke English.
My wife's English. My wife's English is fantastic. It's as good as ours, just about. You know what I mean? Certainly a lot better than my. In the Philippines, she speaks Tagalog. Most people speak Tagalog or Filipino, and I can understand and I can limp through basic conversations. But and Chinese as well, Cantonese, a much more difficult language for a lot of reasons. But I can do the things I need to do and have basic social interaction with Cantonese as well.
Yeah, that's fascinating.
Yeah, with my job, I spent a lot of time in Europe as well. The organization I worked for is a European one. So I spent lots of time in France and Belgium and the Netherlands. Probably for about 10 years I was there, just every couple of months for a week or so. And I enjoyed that too, and the language and cultural challenges there. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah. I can imagine. Yeah. Oh, I bet it sounds like it. And you're a truck driver, so it's all working out okay.
Coming back and being a truck driver suits me. Yeah,
right. Does. It does totally suit you. I mean, and I think too is the difference between all the cultures that you've seen. Getting over into Europe and seeing the difference and from. I mean, it's like the United States, only they're individual countries instead of states. It's all together, kind of mashed into one, and you're getting all these cultures from different, across the border, I mean, you Germany, France, Belgium, you're looking at places that are all kind of different languages, different cultures, and yet they're all bordered to each other. It's not like they've got an ocean on each side like we have.
Well, yeah, and that comes into play when, because I got to know a lot of, people from those countries quite well. And, people would pick up on the idea of, I don't want to say like the ugly American, but, why Americans don't travel well, they don't know things. And I sort of hit them with the idea of, well, listen, when you grew up, when you were young, if you're from the UK, you're from Germany, from Scandinavia, even if you're from a working class family, it doesn't take a lot to get on a train and go vacation in another totally different country for a week, when you're a kid. Now, I don't know about you guys, but growing up in a working class family, if you were to, if someone were to come home and say, I think we're all going to get on a plane and fly to France for a vacation this year. I mean, I'll get hit by lightning before that would have happened when I was a little boy. So, we're just geographically, we don't travel, to a lot of other cultures. It just happens to be the way we are. Again, I don't think that's a bad thing. It's just a fact of life, that we got a great big country that borders another country that's very similar to us. So, we don't do that as often. So you wouldn't have Americans traveling to as many places and stuff as often.
In the U.S.,
yeah.
In the U.S., you can go anywhere on the four corners, and you get a different scenery, different climate.
Yeah.
I mean, we have rainforest, we have desert, we have everything here. Over in Europe, you go to another country because you want to experience something new. Or here, a lot of people just don't ever leave the U.S. I know I don't, other than the Caribbean when we just go on cruises. That's just a little.
Yeah, I think they both have advantages and disadvantages, and it just is the way it is. People need to, I would try to challenge people with that, to say, that's, your own stereotypes are stereotypes. People are the way they are for a lot of different reasons.
Yeah, very true.
Yeah,
very true.
Yeah,
I think it's just really fascinating. I mean, that's such a cool life, dude. I mean, you've really had a very colorful life.
I kind of, I think I decided, right around that time when I decided to pick up and move over there, I really didn't want to have a entirely kind of normal, everyday, average life. It just wasn't, it was, when I see that opportunity to do something a little bit strange, I think it sounds like fun. Let's go give it a try,
Right.
Yeah.
That's cool. It's the right attitude. It's a good attitude to have. I shouldn't say the right attitude, but it's a good attitude to have in today's, more modern world where we're able to travel like we can.
Right.
You can experience a lot more. I mean, this isn't, 1912, where you're getting on the Titanic, hoping to get all the way across, and, whatever happens. And because back then people took, month-long vacations and touring and stuff like that, where we kind of cram it into a vacation week.
Yeah.
We have
the nature of the stuff. They were riding horses.
Yeah, exactly.
It took them a month to get
to do any of these things. Right.
Well, and then you start driving a truck and you say, well, when I take time off, now nobody's paying me anything. So.
Right.
I think I've had a lot of grand plans in the last 6 years that I sort of looked at it and I said, geez, maybe I ought to sit right here and earn some money,
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Because, the grand plans, unless they're financed.
That's right.
They're just planned.
That's right.
You get out of your truck. Okay, I'm going to drive across the United States. I could get paid to do that.
Yeah. I think that all the time.
I might as well just stay in. Yep, exactly. Stay in my truck and come on, hon, we'll go.
That's right. I'll call my boss and say, please try and get me a load to Massachusetts so I can see family. I don't want to have to drive up there on my own dime.
Right.
Right.
Let's make it yours there, boss.
Yep, that's right.
Yeah, it's a very good point. And it's crazy, but we have such a huge country.
Yeah.
This really is a big place. We got room everywhere.
And I'd not seen all of the country till I started driving truck again.
Right.
And I drove for a big flatbed company, pretty well known one. And it took me 10 months to hit every state.
Wow.
Yeah. So I was bouncing around a lot.
7 years. I only hit 5 or 6 states.
I've been here 56 years and I haven't hit every freaking state yet.
I think the only one I was really waiting to tick off was to get to the UP in Michigan. And it took me about 3 years to get up there, to get a load up there, I think. But yeah, when you say you've been there, it means what it's like if you're driving a truck. It means you've been through, and you parked at a truck stop out in the middle of nowhere. But I've been through all those places, you know what I mean, and seen them. So
but it's cool. I mean, it really is neat. And that's one of the fascinating things about being here in the States is that, it is such a big place that, you can, like Mike was saying, you can hit every kind of time zone. You can hit every kind of freaking, weather. You can hit any kind of, climate change, temperate stuff and everything going on.
Not to disparage any other country or nation in the world, but we have everything that I really want to see right here.
Sure. Yeah. I'll tell you, it was interesting for me that the company I work for now is headquartered. It's a small company, about 50 trucks, in southern Alabama, and I'd never really spent all that much time in the South. And it's been really interesting for me that to go down there and nowadays I'm not hitting every state like I used to working for that, big sort of, not exactly a mega company, but a bigger company. We tend to be out and back a lot. So I spend a lot of time in the South. And I've gotten more comfortable and learned a lot more about it and how lovely it is down there in many ways. And it's a nice chance to, see things. Plus my daughter went to she was born in Hong Kong and she went to university there. And now is living in Columbia, South Carolina, doing a PhD. And that's sort of my home away from home. When I'm going to get off the road, I go and I spend time with her there. And again, it's another very southern state and another, interesting view of the world that I didn't have before. So it's nice. It's fun.
Yeah. No, that is really cool.
Yeah.
That is really cool. What is her course of study?
She's studying to become a school psychologist.
Very cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Good for her.
Or
That's
possibly a professor, God knows what. She's got a bit of that wanderlust, like, our whole family that, she's also got ideas of possibly doing some of the stuff I'd done with maybe working for international organizations and research overseas and stuff too. So who knows where she'll end up. She'll end up somewhere good. She's a hardworking girl. Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
That is fantastic. So, yeah, it's really cool, man.
Yeah.
That is really cool. So since you've been driving again, how long did it take you to get your license back? When you came back to the States and you wanted to start driving again, how long?
I had to be tricky about it. Guys who have CDLs will understand this. The general population doesn't. When I went back, I had been living in Massachusetts, so I went back and I said, hey, if I come back, I could go stay with family and try to get my license back. And they told me, well, no, it's going to take you a year. You're going to have to establish residency, get a normal license, and then wait a period of time before you can get your CDL. So I said, oh my God, this whole plan I've got in mind has been dashed. I didn't realize it was going to take that long. So I started looking around and I realized that all the states have different rules for that. So I decided, finally, I centered on South Dakota, where you can very legally arrive on day 1 and become a resident. Day 2, get your driver's license. Day 3, get your CDL permit, and off you go. So I went to South Dakota and I established my residency and got my permit there. I ended up switching that over to Texas just because I thought, especially doing flatbed, that the job market looked a lot better out of Texas. So I was there for about a week, 2 weeks after, and then went down to Texas and did CDL school in Texas. That took me, I think it's about a month. I didn't do it through a company. I chose very pointfully, I wanted to get my license on my own and pay for it. That way I wasn't beholden to anybody once I had it. That idea of having to either pay them back or commit to a certain amount of time. I wanted to be able to make the choices I wanted to make. So I paid for it, and then I got paid back for it. The company that I hired on with paid me, I can't remember how long it took, but they paid me weekly until that whole amount was paid off that I put into CDL school.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's really good.
Yeah. I mean, if people are thinking to get their CDL, I mean, that would be my personal suggestion. I would, if you can swing it somehow, and I know a lot of community colleges have programs, Workman's retraining programs and stuff will help you get your CDL on your own. I think it really gives you a lot more choices. You can make a plan of your own better than you can getting a company-sponsored CDL. I think it's a better idea.
My CDL was through Pitt, Ohio, and I was kind of worried I had to sign on 3 years.
Right.
And, it was like 27 years ago.
Worked
I'm
out
still
right.
here, yeah. I was kind of worried, man, 3 years, because I was just
well, their math was 1 year equals 9 in real time.
Right.
It's like
So, yeah, you're just going to get out of the probationary period.
I think I do agree with you. It is it gives you more opportunity if you have your if you get your license on your own. And especially with some of these big companies, I mean, the Schneiders and the Swifts and stuff like that. You're beholden to them then for a while.
Yeah. And I went, listen,
I don't know, and I don't mean to disparage.
No, understood.
If that's the way you don't have the money and you can't, I totally understand it. It's still a great career, and you can do a great, earn a great living doing this. And when you get an opportunity to move on, you move on.
Right.
But
I mean, I'm not trying to keep a secret with her or anything, but when I left CDL school, I was down to thinking, well, I knew I wanted to do flatbed for all the reasons we talked about before. And I kind of narrowed it down to Maverick and Melton as the two places I was most interested in. And I believe I ended up choosing Melton. Melton does not do a CDL program. You have to go there with a CDL. And I think Maverick was the same, actually. And if I'd been limited to only, choosing a company, well, those guys would have been off the table for me. I couldn't have done it. So I think there are some advantages to getting it on your own if you can do it. But if you can't, man, just jump on, get it done, get your license, and 6 months later, break free and do whatever you want to do. It works both ways.
Do your time. Yeah, exactly. I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
Like you said, a lot of states have with unemployment office, they have we have Career Link here in Pennsylvania. And when my wife was going through it at Career Link, she didn't go for truck driving, but that was one of the courses they were really trying to recruit people to come in. Right. So it's that's the way to do it. The state pays for everything.
Yeah.
If you do it through the state, you're not beholden to any trucking company. Yeah. The state paid for it. You may, that's like part of your unemployment there.
Yeah. It's job retraining.
Yeah. Continuing education.
When I was in CDL school, I think I'm guessing there were 10, 15 of us in this particular class I was in, and everyone except for one other guy were doing it that route, through the local government. And I've forgotten, you said, is it the welfare office, or not welfare? It's unemployment office. That it was a benefit and a job retraining course. And most of them, I remember that at least, when I left, I don't know what happened to these guys afterwards, except for one of them who's a buddy of mine. But most of them didn't want to go over the road. They were all looking for local jobs. I know a lot of the guys went for hauling, cement trucks, and that's a pretty common one. And school buses. I think there were a lot of different recruitment opportunities. But he and I were the only ones that were looking to go out and go over the road. And we both ended up going to Melton. He a little bit later than I, but we both headed out and wanted to do. I was a little bit surprised by that, but yeah.
No, I would never. I don't. God bless all the guys who drive over the road. I can't. It doesn't even compute in my head, that kind of lifestyle. I just can't imagine living in a truck like that.
I said to myself, and as I often have with things, with all the upheaval it caused in my life to come back and do this and commit to it, I said, no matter what, I'm going to do it for a year, whether I love it or I hate it. I am going to stick in this for a year. And then I'll reassess and see what I want to do. And I realized after a year that I really like it. I enjoy it. Matter of fact, I noticed that when I first started, not that I've always gone kind of light. I moved to Asia with just one bag, and I made it there. But on the truck, the amount of stuff that I have on the truck has gotten smaller and smaller and smaller over the years. Yeah. I really enjoy living with less stuff. I think that suits a trucker's lifestyle a bit. So I don't know.
Yeah. It makes life a lot easier to travel around in.
Yeah.
When you do more minimalist type of
not only that,
approach.
I mean, it makes the whole new meaning of the word bug out bag,
Yeah, exactly.
You're in an
you got it, man.
And truck catches fire. You're not emptying out that whole entire cab.
Grab your bag and go.
Grab a bag and you're out.
Yeah, 45 minutes, I'm gone, man. I could be in another country.
Yeah. Amen, brother.
That's right. If I have to run away from my wife, she's small, but she's mean.
She can find you.
She'd find me.
Yeah. I think most of us would attest to that. Our wives would eventually find us.
Indeed.
No matter what. No matter how long
mine
it takes.
There's
not even going to look.
There's no escape. There's no escape.
Oh, well. You know what? After 36 years, I'm not escaping any place at this point.
I'm with you. I'm with you.
It is what it is, and but I just find it's fascinating. It is such a fascinating life that you have, and you have led, and what you're doing now. Like Mike said, my hat's off to guys who can do it in a truck and sleep there and work there, and and you make it work, and you're happy, and you're doing it. And you're well adjusted, you know what I mean? Like I know me, I know my mindset. I would not be so well adjusted.
There are days, there are days, just like anybody would say, where it's it's a challenge and we don't like it. But I know you guys have talked to a buddy of mine who put me onto you guys, London Mike. Mike came over to this small company. He and I were acquainted when I worked at Melton, and I found out there was an opening. I said, "Come on, Mike, give it a try and apply." But he and I have talked about this idea that when we first started working for that big company, and you have forced dispatch, you can't control your loads out. Now nowadays, I probably could object to loads or say I don't want to do, but generally I know that Yeah, we can talk about why in a little while. One of the big advantages, I think, but generally they're going to send me to places where I'm going to make the most money. So I don't often object to a load, almost never. But there was an idea when I worked at this other company, and Mike and I have talked about this a couple of times. That you finish a load, you submit your paperwork, and you sit there, and 15 minutes later you're wondering, hey man, where am I going to go? It's like you're rolling the wheel of fortune. I could be going to Maine, I could be going to Arizona, I could be going to Washington, and I liked that. There's a little bit of excitement there, a little bit of a thrill of, gee, I wonder where I'm going to go in a couple of minutes. And then once you've got 2-3 days. My next 2-3 days is set, and I'm going to work. And I always work quite hard. I always try to get as many miles in as I can, and earn more money if nothing else. But your life becomes 1 day, 2 day, 3 day blocks, and then it turns off, and you sit there again and you say, right, where am I going to go? I don't know. Let's roll that wheel again. Let's see where I end up. And there's something that's kind of fun, kind of addictive about that. I think being OTR. I know Mike and I both talked about it. We liked it.
Yeah. Well, were you ever apprehensive about that? Like, did it ever, like when you first started doing it, and you don't know, like you're just kind of getting into the industry, and you're not sure where you're going, and you don't even know, how to get from place to place, other than yet you got to sit down, look at your map, and figure it out. Were you ever apprehensive, or
I'll be really honest with you? No, I thought it was a kick. I thought it was a thrill. That part of the job didn't trouble me a bit. I think. Right. One of the things that I thought was good, having driven a truck when I was younger, I worked for a local company doing Class B flatbed. Now, again, it's a very different thing driving a smaller straight truck, but delivering mostly building supplies and things. And we would take those trucks into places that you wouldn't want to bring a pickup truck a lot of times. So I'd been through that and done that for a while. So I always felt quite confident that. I can get this truck in somewhere and not worry about it too much. So I didn't worry about that stuff too much. Backing up without killing somebody or ruining things, it took me a while to get used to that. That's for sure, for all of us. Right. But, the driving part of it, I found exciting. I wasn't too apprehensive about. The only thing I was very apprehensive about was having to spend 3 weeks with a trainer in a truck. And it was about as challenging as I expected it to be. That's not. It's the guy that I went with. Henry, if you're listening, he taught me a lot. This guy knew how to flatbed. He knew how to drive hard. I'll give him all the credit in the world. Would I want to spend 3 weeks on a truck again with him? God, no. That's not fun. That is not fun. That part I worried about, and it's that. Yeah, that's tough. That's tough.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah.
You got to learn to be okay with living with somebody else who you don't really know when you first meet them.
Yeah.
And you first get, and it's not like you get to meet them and get to know them and say, hey, spend a couple of days together. It's you meet them and you're living together,
Well, you meet them with a bag on your hand. Yeah. Bag in your hand, and they're like, hey, throw it up in the truck. We're leaving in 20 minutes. Yeah, that's what it is.
Yep. Yeah. It is. But yeah, it's kind of cool. I mean, I think it's the people you get to meet doing this job is fascinating. Yeah. Even doing it the way we do it.
Hey, truckers, ever find yourself miles from home and running low on your daily meds? Don't worry, we've got your back. Meet Refill Genie, the telehealth service designed just for folks like us who are always on the move. Whether you're crossing state lines or hauling coast to coast, Refill Genie connects you with a licensed doctor to refill your existing prescriptions hassle-free. No more detours or long waits at the clinic. Just hop online and get your meds and keep on trucking. Use code HLL for a 15% off your order. So head over to refillgenie.com and keep your health in gear. Wherever
we get to meet and see different people and engage with other characters. Right. One way or the other, you can there's something.
Try to avoid that as much as possible.
Yeah. Which is why we work at night.
Well, I work during the day, and I try to make myself scarce with people. I don't want nothing to do with it.
Well, there's a job right there for you. Then be a truck driver. People who can't spend time alone as well, they're not going to be happy in this job. You got to be able to
100.
Spend time on your own and be comfortable with yourself, or you're going to be really unhappy.
Yeah. Yes, that is very true.
I'm the only person I can stand.
Can I turn the tables on you guys and ask you a question? Because I have a feeling that I think this job is more tailored to a guy. I'm in my mid 50s. That it's more tailored to older guys. I think it suits us a little bit better. Even though I'm doing flatbed, which is physically challenging and hard to get out and do sometimes, and it hurts a lot. But I think I've got the feeling that young guys, or young ladies, I've met plenty of female flatbedders. I'm seeing more and more of them as time goes on, and good on them, man. I think it's great. But young people, you've got a big social network. You're dating. There's a lot of things that are going to want to pull you home where you're not going to want to spend a lot of time alone. Or you have children, being an OTR truck driver with children, man, I never would have done it. But my kids are big. They're settled in a career. My wife can come on the road with me. This job it's not that hard. It's not that isolating for me. For young people, I think it'd be tough. I don't know if I could do it. I wonder if you guys agree.
I always said that over the road was for the guy that's just learning how to drive truck, or the guy that's divorced 4 times down the road and finally figured out it. Not them, it's him. And goes back on the road at 45, 50.
Fair enough.
But, for 2 reasons. The person that's the young and just coming out of the gate there, they can see the whole, see the entire United States, do whatever. They can get their teeth cut in the job itself and kind of get a feel what's required and where they want to go. And 5 years down the road, after 29, 30, if they're starting at 24, 23, they can decide where they want to move their career to as far as LTL or private hauling for other people that has set hours. Readjust, recalibrate the lifestyle at that point.
Yeah, but I also.
But I know guys that turned around and 45, 50. I'm going to buy my own truck and start going on the road.
Which is for me I'm mid 50s. I mean, we're all in our 50s,
right?
And
I'm past that click.
But
I'm close on your heels.
Well, I think when I think about young people I think there's wisdom in what you're saying there. That it's going to be hard on them because they're especially these younger generations compared to us, compared to what we grew up in the 80s, 70s and 80s. We're looking at it. These kids nowadays they seem to be much more connected, to each other. Like they're on their social media all the time. They're doing stuff all the time. They're going away all the time. And so to actually separate themselves from that, to actually be alone and isolate themselves in a truck, I think for them is going to be, it could be a very difficult.
They've already said that since COVID. Yeah. That's been a problem with a lot of the younger kids. They've isolated themselves and all they have is online. And they say it's not good for your mental health. I was like, I don't know. Being alone is great for my mental health.
I mean, at this point,
they're rolling in a traveling prison cell for 9 months out of the year is not such a good thing for your mental health either, but you can survive it, I guess.
Right. Yeah, these kids nowadays, they have a panic attack if their battery on their cell phone goes bad.
Right. I say that, but I've met some young guys, often just in the truck stop or the fuel island, talking. People say something, and I met some young guys who I think are doing it. Man, they'll say, "Listen, I'm living in my truck. I go crash with my brother, my sister, my mom, my dad, when I need a week off every couple of months." And they'll say, "I'm going to do this for 2 years, 3 years." And I met one guy who said, my goal is to get 100,000 in the bank. And he said, "I'm well on my way." He said he was really close after, 2.5 years. Man, if you're doing it for that reason with that plan, what a great plan that is for a young kid to come out here and just, sock away every penny and then go do whatever it is you want to do with 6 figures in the bank to do it with. It's a great plan.
How about it? And that's just it. It's having a plan.
Yeah.
Is actually having something in mind that you want to accomplish. If you're just coming at this with no kind of plan, no thought, you're just going to do this and I'm going to do this for a living and I'm going to drive and that's it. And you really don't have a reason. You don't have a plan. You don't have any kind of anything you're looking forward to doing. I think that's
unrealistic expectations.
And
some of these kids that come in, they come in, they want a new truck right away. Yeah. Oh, what do you mean we have to work 60 hours? I want to work 40 and go home. Yeah, it's like that's not trucking.
I would say this to my kids too, and I'm really proud of my kids. But I'll say, have a plan, and if things change, you can always change your plan. Just have a plan.
Yes.
You know?
Yes. Exactly.
It's a good way to do it.
You know, because it is. You have to be, you know, a plan is intact until things change.
Yeah.
Because then you've got to be willing to adjust that plan. You know, I was watching it's a stupid aside here, but it's an aside. One of the Civil War generals had an attitude of, you have your major plan of attack, and it's that plan until you engage the enemy, and then you have to be willing to change. You know, because you don't know what you're going to run into.
Right. Like
and that's really life.
Mike Tyson said, everybody got a plan until you get punched in the face.
Yeah, that is a great one, isn't it? And I can, having boxed for a number of years in Hong Kong, I can attest to that. Boy, you get hit in the face, and a lot of plans go right out the window when somebody makes contact with your nose. Yeah.
It's probably a good time to make a change.
Got the whole fight in your head. This is how it's going to go. I'm going to punch him. He's going to fall down.
I've been there.
No, man, that really hurt.
But it's just a reality to it. We have to be willing to make changes as we move forward.
No,
because if you don't, you're not moving forward anymore. You know, you've got to keep, and having a plan, I think, is a really smart way of approaching, especially a job like this.
Right.
You know, you have to have a thought in mind as to what you want to do.
Especially what you're doing over the road. You've got to have that takes planning. I mean, we go to work. We know we're coming home for the most part. We're coming home every day, unless we have to lay out because of weather or something. But that's rare.
Right.
We know we're coming home. We know basically what our week is going to look like. Like you said, you have a 3-day block, and then what's going to happen after that?
Yeah, I'm lucky to be in a place now. In a company now where, you know, I generally do know where I'm going, you know, ahead of time. Not always, though, especially the last, 6 months. Things have not been great. You know, we all know we're all struggling out here and having a harder time. So, there are plenty of days where I've got that same old thing where we don't know where we're going next. But quite often I do. And that's... I guess that's nice. It means I can plan home time a little bit better. I get home a lot more now than I would have when I first started. Or I say home. Home is home is the Philippines for me, to be honest, or the truck. But back to my daughter's place in Colombia, and it's nice to be able to come off the road a little bit more. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I think it's awesome.
Yeah.
Are you an owner operator with that company?
I'm not. I'm a company driver. There certainly are some owner operators with us, quite a few. I kind of thought after I was a couple of years in, and I wanted to do a couple of years with one company, because I know it just having worked most of my life, stability looks good, to everybody. Jumping around doesn't look great. So after those couple of years, I thought, do I want to try to become an owner op? And I realized that I think being then I would have been at 55, I think 54. If you could roll the dice, and maybe I would have come out ahead in my early 60s when I'm planning to retire. But, an engine failure and a transmission failure, and I'd be behind the ball, Had I been late 40s, I think I definitely would have looked to go owner op. I think mid 50s, the financial, chance didn't necessarily work in my favor. I found a place where I think I'm doing pretty well. I get paid percentage. I'm not working cents per mile. So I've got some of the benefits that you might have as an owner op. I feel like anybody trucking. This is my own feeling. There are a lot of ways to do it, but if you've got a place where you're working a percentage, and it's a real percentage of the rate con, and you see the rate cons. It's none of this. What do they call it? Load rate or whatever that some of these places play. That's just a made up sort of number that they pay you a percentage of.
Right.
Then you remove, there's adversarial relationships sometimes when you have an employer, where they're trying to pay you less and they're trying to earn more, and that's business, that's life. But I think when you work for percentage for somebody, if they earn more money, you earn more money. Do you know what I mean? So I don't have that inherent conflict with my boss, with my company when it comes to making money, because we're both looking for the highest paying loads, to get out there and do. So there's no conflict that way. And man, I prefer it. It's a better system of work in this weird, archaic system that we have of trucking. The way we all get paid is really odd. Percentage is the way to go if you can get it. Yeah.
Yeah. It's amazing how many different types of getting paid there is in this industry.
It really is.
Mileage percentages
by the load.
Yeah. I think, if you're a local guy, getting paid hourly, that's fantastic as well. But, doing OTR, I don't see how that system works. I don't see how it's feasible. I think percentage is probably the best way for them to set it up and do it. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think the mindset that, everybody wants to make as much as they can. The driver wants to make as much as they can. The owner wants to make as much as they can.
Yeah.
And if everybody would keep that mindset, that'd be great.
Right.
Because it's like that should be the goal. It should be the goal for us all. Is everybody wants to make as much as they possibly can. I want to make sure that Pitt, Ohio, is making as much as they can because I want to continue to be employed at Pitt, Ohio. I don't want to be able to change, and I don't want to let go for another job.
Yeah, when you're getting paid cents per mile, though, I never really felt it, but it's easy to have those thoughts creep in your mind of, man, are they holding me back? Are they putting other people forward? Do you know what I mean? How come this guy's getting more miles? Am I getting more miles? Or why am I getting more miles? Guys are complaining they're not getting miles. I don't have to deal with any of those thoughts. You know what I mean? I'm entirely confident that they're going to get me the best they can. Sorry?
Yes.
For us, it's all seniority based. You're not worried about somebody else getting more miles than you. That it doesn't have more seniority. But where it gets frustrating is when you have to stand around and wait, and you're not getting paid.
Right.
That's
without
the
a
mile
doubt.
isn't fun.
Yeah. It's no fun. It's no fun. It's no fun dropping a load off on a Friday afternoon, knowing that there's no load coming until Monday morning. That's just a horrible. It's a horrible Friday feeling. Yeah.
I can imagine. Yeah.
Yeah.
But then again, you got a couple of days off, so you can relax. And,
if you're at home, that's
though. I'll tell you, if you're home, it's great. Out here on the road, my general attitude is, I do not want to be sitting in this truck not getting paid.
Brian would love to spend his time in Newark, New Jersey on a weekend.
100%. That's where I want to be. Or New York City.
Saturday night's fun night at the TA.
Karaoke night.
Yeah. Nowhere more exciting than a truck stop. Yeah.
Oh yeah, exactly. We've all sat there, and it's a blast. It's a blast. So
I think the only
go ahead.
No, I'm just thinking the worst feelings of sitting. I remember that going through Wyoming. Actually, it could be any time of year going through Wyoming. I had a high foam load. And I sat in Wamsutter, out there on I-80 for, I think, 3.5 days. Beautiful blue skies, all the heavy loads are coming in and out and going. High wind warnings. I sat there for 3.5 days, not earning a penny because I couldn't roll. And I'll tell you, Wamsutter is not a place you want to spend 3 days in if you can avoid it. There's nothing there but plains and dirt.
Like that. Well, the interesting thing about Shoeville is that I live here,
right?
So it's interesting to me.
It's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful up there. But when you're sitting in a truck babysitting a load, you know what I mean. At the Loves, that's not fun. Man.
Yep,
that's not fun.
And you're not making any money. You're right.
Yeah,
that is it. Because no matter how you slice it, at the end of the day, in this industry, everybody's doing this job for one. The main thing that we're doing this for is a paycheck at the end of the week.
You may love your job, but you want that month. The reason you're doing it for money.
It's for money.
Again, you're earning.
Yep.
If you're working for a good employer, then I think they're going to be looking for that in you too, man. If you want to sit out here on our equipment and not work, go find a job somewhere else, man. This is you're costing us all money. I understand that.
Yep.
Incentive on their side too.
Yeah, because they're not paying for a truck to have it just sit still.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's the reality of it. So in this industry, they've got to be moving, or nobody's earning anything.
Yeah, you have to. You got to sort of change your way of looking at things a bit doing this job for sure.
Do.
Yeah.
Time off in this industry is
10 hours at a time.
10 hours at a time.
Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah. But and anybody who's done it for a while too, they know that for over OTR truckers, home time is inviolate. You know what I mean? And if you have, how many times have you guys talked to people or yourselves or seen people? You quit. Why do people quit jobs? A lot of the time, it's over. That company told me they get me home on Wednesday. They didn't get me until Friday. And it's upsetting enough that they'll say a good job. People will say, "Screw it, I'm gone." This is what you promised me. It's it's that important, I think, getting that home time.
It is.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. It because that's what keeps you connected.
Yeah.
That's what keeps you connected to your life. Otherwise, your life is just going by, and you're not living it.
Yeah.
You're just which and you want to you want to be part of it.
With the younger generation, it's going to be hard to tell these younger kids, no, we're just going to keep you out for 3 weeks at a shot. I don't see the younger kids wanting to do that. I mean, the older guys that have that work ethic from like years ago. All right, well, I'll drive another week. I'll get home to see my kids when the younger people, I just don't see them doing that.
And then
I'm
I see
not younger. I wouldn't want to do that either.
When you see the young kids realize too that if you want to go home every 3 weeks, you're also not going to earn much money. You better be staying out 2 months if you want to earn money. And when they hear that, you can see the faces just drop like, oh man, this is not what I signed on for. And I understand it. I understand it. I get it. Yeah.
But if they actually try and give it an honest chance,
right,
they'll find that they like it.
They might.
I think it's that kind of thing,
Yeah. Or if they can just bite the bullet and do it for 2 or 3 years and save up that money, not buy ski-doos and boats and fancy trucks, they're putting themselves ahead for sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
But we are watching life go by to a point, like it or not. Out here on the road, you are.
Yeah. Yes. I totally agree with that. I mean, I was just saying to my wife today, and I think I said to Mike sitting at the table downstairs. I can't believe it's November. You look at the calendar, November 3rd. Where'd the year go?
Yeah.
I mean, we're 2 months from Christmas, 8 weeks.
Yeah.
And you just look at it and you're like, how'd that happen? We are watching our lives because you do a lot, you work a lot in this industry. You just do.
You
even
do.
doing what we do.
Of course,
we're home every day.
That's one of the things I think it must be most challenging for you guys. That you have to go to work. I know you guys, I'm sure, are working 12 hours, 14-hour days a lot of the time. That's a tough life, getting home and going to bed and just getting up and going straight back to work. Yeah,
that's it. That is it. And it's why sometimes when you're having a conversation with somebody who works in an office and they're like they're doing the 9 to 5 and they're complaining because they're tired. You don't know what tired is. Let me tell you.
Made me work an hour of overtime.
Did he? But at the same time, I get it. People are creatures of habit, and they like their 9 to 5. And when that's disrupted, I get it. I mean, I do, because we get upset when our lives are upturned a little bit. Just the reality of it.
My longest period on the truck was, I think it was about 9.5 months without taking any time off. And I'll tell you, the reason for it too was during COVID, because I did take some time off, and I sat in a hotel and there was nowhere to go. I said, man, I could be sitting in my truck right now earning money, so why am I taking time off? So I went, but I would never do it again, because I don't know where the magic sort of number is, but somewhere around 5-6 months, you start to become kind of a different, strange person when you're on a truck for 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 months. Your social skills and the way you interact with people starts to change a little bit. So I'll never do that again. That was too long to be on a truck. Yeah.
You start listening to the voices in your own head, don't you?
Without a doubt.
You start having little friends that are called Wilson.
That's too long to be on a truck. Too long to be on a truck.
Yeah. Your interpersonal skills kind of lapse, but
yeah.
It is what it is, It's amazing, and COVID was a totally different time for everybody.
Yeah,
it was beautiful to be a driver.
Oh, the roads were clear and wide
wasn't
open.
it nice
when everybody was on?
The cities were so nice to come through during COVID. Yeah, I have to say that was really nice.
Yeah.
Now all the idiots are back on the road.
Yeah,
I don't know if you guys have this, but I know that for me, a couple of the guys I work with, we're good friends. We spend a lot of time talking on the phone. And it's as though we're sitting next to each other driving, but we work for the same company. Sure. Mike's one of them. My buddy Sam's another one. We'll call each other a couple times a day. People tease it. I talk to him more than I talk to my wife. One of my buddies, and it's like we're sitting next to each other, driving down the road, having a chat, and it not only passes the time, it keeps you, the social interaction. It keeps you linked to other people. It really helps you out here. I didn't do OTR back in the late 80s, early 90s when I started. I did a couple small regional trips every now and then, just that came up. But that's a different life, before cell phones and being able to do video calls and things. This must have been a very different job doing OTR then, boy. More challenging.
Oh my God. Yeah.
So quiet.
100%. I think, honestly, I think back to like, the 60s and 70s. And I think about drivers being out there and not having that connection.
Yeah.
Your only connection was your CB radio. That was it.
Yep.
You couldn't,
pocket full of change and a payphone. You could not be connected on a moment's notice to call somebody or whatever. Like some of the luxuries that we have today, just different. It was different, Well, Joe, this has been a lot of fun. This has been a blast. Thank you so much for giving us. We really enjoyed this, and I really do. If you would just hang on with us for a few minutes after we sign off, and just make sure everything uploads and all that stuff. But we just want to say thank you so much for coming on and just sharing your story and very interesting getting a perspective of a flatbedder.
Yeah, it really is. It really
driving
is.
big boxes around is totally different.
It is. Yep. So thank you so much. Oh man, it was a pleasure. It was a real pleasure. And we hope you enjoyed yourself. We hope everybody out there enjoyed this show. And if they enjoyed this show, Schipper, what can they do?
They can share the show. Share with anybody and everybody.
Amen, brother. On every kind of social media platform, and even things that aren't social media platforms. Just the people that you know.
Or old school. Put it up on the bathroom wall, as Mike said.
That's right.
For a good time, listen to
Hammerlane Legend. And sometimes even we'll just fill it with the generic 8675309. A little bit Tommy two-tone. So with all that being said, keep the hammer down.
Hammerlane. Good night.
Good night.